Cataclysm's antagonist is Deathwing, the dragon aspect responsible for the cataclysmic events in this expansion. To tell you more about Deathwing, here are some of the designers and storytellers that know him best.
Deathwing is one of the 5 dragon aspects of the Warcraft universe. The idea is that dragons in Warcraft are split up into 5 distinct flights, and they were empowered long ago to guard certain aspects of the world. You know, the blue dragons guard magic, black dragons guard the earth, red dragons are, protectors of life, and so on. So Deathwing and the black dragon flight originally were meant to protect the earth. Originally, Deathwing was named Neltharion. It was very jovial and did a good job protecting the world. As in deeper Warcraft lore, there are very dark, villainous creatures called the Old Gods that were long ago chained beneath the world. And I think their kind of crazy, maddening whispers over the millennia kind of seeped up from their subterranean prisons and drove Neltharion a little crazy, to the point where long ago he lost his mind, ceased to be Neltharion, and really became Deathwing. A specific conflict about 10,000 years in the past of present-day Warcraft, called the War of the Ancients, where the big demon army was invading the world. And it was at that time where the 5 dragon flights united were meant to drive this enemy from the shores of the world and save the world, fulfill their function of protecting the mortal races. And in the midst of all that, as Deathwing's madness was kind of growing in his ears, he created an artifact called the Dragon Soul, right? That he tricked his brethren into believing, well, if we combine our power as we're meant to, this will be the great weapon, to save the world. And in truth, once he had all their powers put into this terrible artifact, he claimed it for his own and essentially betrayed them in the worst moment at the 11th hour, essentially turned on the other dragon flights, decimated the blue flight, forever cursed the black flight, and just pretty much broke the family apart. And as his madness overcame him, his innate kind of powers over the forces of earth and fire just kind of erupted in his body. His gargantuan body literally split apart with like fire and magma in this horrific eruption, almost as if he's like a volcano in dragon form. And that day he became Deathwing, just this raging, fiery engine of destruction. And one of the interesting things about Deathwing's visual kit is that while he's this gargantuan dragon, and the fact that he's kind of literally always falling apart because his rage just cannot be contained by his physical shell, they actually had to hammer into these adamantine plates all along his spine just to literally staple his body together. His rage was so uncontrollable. So it creates a very cool visual look for him as a villain in the series. And the latest incarnation of Deathwing, which is probably the most dangerous ever, he's actually stapled together with Elementium, which is kind of a new steel we've conjured for the game that kind of channels the powers of the elements through it. It's kind of a conduit for whatever elemental power is aimed at it. So certainly his is fire and stone, so he's kind of more dangerous than ever before. So why now, right? Why is Deathwing emerging, erupting into the world and causing this cataclysmic event? The answer to that is that at this time in the history of Azeroth, a long chain of events is finally reaching its fulfillment. There is this very ancient prophecy that is not often, spoken of, that speaks of kind of this hour of twilight, the final days of the world. If the old gods that were chained long ago had their way, set in motion, this chain of events that would enact, their final vision to remake the world in their image, this hour of twilight. And what we've seen happening to some great degree over the past number of Warcraft products, probably starting with the Gates of Ankh-Karash patch, where we saw the old god Cthulhu, kind of rising beneath the land of Silithus. So clearly there's a chain of events in motion where the old gods are rising, their ancient machinations are finally paying off, and Deathwing ultimately is their greatest hammer. He is the great weapon that they've been waiting to use all these years. While he's had his own machinations, over the course of history, trying to make his own dragon flights and kind of build his own kingdoms, the truth is, he was corrupted by the old gods from the start. And in this final hour, right, where they will, attempt to assure their, ascendancy, he is pretty much the greatest weapon, for them to unleash. So that's why now their final end game is in play, and he is pretty much the great key to it all.